Paul Saladino.
Dr. Paul Saladino.
Paul Saladino. Paul Saladino.
I tried Paul Saladino's diet for 1 week, and this is what happened to my body. If you don't know who Paul Saladino is, no worries buddy, I gotcha. So Paul Saladino is a medical doctor and the author of the Carnivore Code. He's also the host of the Fundamental Health podcast, as well as the leading advocate of an animal-based diet, making him very, and I mean very controversial, modern medicine. Up until 2020, he ate strictly carnivore, so just meat, eggs and organs. But due to electrolyte issues, he added back carbohydrates in the forms of fruit, raw honey and raw dairy, so none of the usual stuff like bread or rice. After watching a couple of his videos, I thought to myself, why not try his diet for 1 week and see what happens. So now to the rules of his diet. First of all, he doesn't drink coffee, so I didn't either, and I really have to admit that was hard, man, that was really hard. Second of all, is something I realized the first couple of days, is the amount of meat you have to eat per day. I'd had to eat around 2 pounds or almost 1 kilogram of meat per day. That's almost an entire cow per year. Ridiculous if you ask me. He also says that eating muscle meat alone isn't enough to cover your nutrient needs, so he supplements that with bone broth as well as cow organs like liver, heart and testicles, but I didn't have access to those and I wasn't too sad about the last one. And he also eats on a very specific schedule, so first meal is at 10 AM and the second meal is at 4:30 PM, which is supposed to aid digestion as well as sleep quality. If you've listened closely and your attention span wasn't worse than that of a goldfish, then you might have noticed that I didn't mention any vegetables. But Clemens, you might ask yourself, aren't vegetables supposed to be healthy? Well, I'll just let Paul speak for himself.
This is bullshit. Just make a left turn away from the vegetables. You cooked and ate all of this, you might even give yourself a kidney stone. They got some salads and vegetable trays over here. We can skip that.
Well, according to Paul, vegetables contain plant defense chemicals like tannins, saponins, lectins and oxalates, which block the absorption of iron, zinc and calcium, can cause digestive issues and can even lead to kidney stone formation. Yeah, vegetables aren't on the menu today. But why does Paul exclusively eat red meat? Well, this is because pigs and chicken are usually fed soy and corn, which enriches their fatty acid tissue with linoleic acid, which is a type of omega-6 fatty acid that is also found in things like highly processed seed oils, which then in return throws off your omega-3 to omega-6 balance, leading to inflammation, and then in return leading to things like cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's or even diabetes. For context, the typical Western diet has a omega-3 to omega-6 ratio of 1 to 15, whilst the optimal range would be a ratio of 1 to 4. Yeah, but what about fish? Well, Paul argues that fish are usually contaminated with heavy metals, microplastics, as well as PFAs that disrupt your hormones. Taking all of this into account, this is what a typical day of eating would look like for me. If I would go for a run in the morning, I'd have a banana and some raw honey to fuel my run. Then for breakfast, I'd have some steak and eggs, as well as some fruits like pineapples, mangoes, oranges, mandarins, berries, or even butternut squash, which technically is a fruit. With the fruits, I'd avoid the fruits that are in the Dirty Dozen list, as those, according to Paul, are heavily sprayed with pesticides. I'd also then drink a kefir or some raw milk alongside that. For dinner, I'd have some very fatty ground beef made into burger patties and covered with raw cheese, as well as, again, some fruits. So let's get into the results of the 7-day experiment. First of all, my body weight increased from day 1 of 76.3 kilograms to 77.1 kilogram, meaning I gained a total of 0.8 kilograms of body weight, which is roughly 2 pounds. My energy levels on this diet were very stable. I didn't really have any big crashes in energy, no afternoon dips whatsoever, and I think this is due to the lower amount of total carbohydrates I was eating on a daily basis. Something noteworthy though was when I was eating a lot of fruits and milk products, which of course have fructose and lactose, those would lead me to have a spike and then crash in insulin, not really making me tired, but I felt the amount of sugar I was eating in comparison to my normal diet, which has way less. So now to the food cravings and hunger levels on this diet. So my hunger levels were through the roof. I was just craving food all the time, and that of course is due to the high density of calories that you're eating on a daily basis, as the bulk of your calories are just coming from red meat, cheese and other milk products, and those in general aren't very filling. And the problem is, if you're craving a snack, you're kind of left to just eating like a stick of raw cheese or a fruit, and those weren't really the snacks I was looking for. Sports performance. Well, I really felt the lower amount of total carbohydrates on this diet, meaning I just couldn't push myself as hard in the gym, and the pumps were considerably worse. Adding to that, my swim, bike and run sessions were a tad bit worse than baseline as well. Especially the longer ones, I would feel my carb stores depleting just a tad bit faster than they usually do. My sleep quality was fairly good. I averaged 91% sleep score on my fitness wearable Whoop, meaning I got pretty good rest every single night, ranging around 85% to 95% sleep score. And I think this is due to the early meal, of course, I had at 4:30 p.m, meaning I'd have around 5 hours to digest the food until I would go to sleep. Will I be doing this diet long term? Well, the short answer is no. Let me explain. So for me, the athletic performance was not as good as on my regular diet, where I consume more and longer chain carbohydrates that fuel me for my longer sessions. Paul recommends that if you're a very active person, that you just eat more fruits to fuel those workouts. But in my opinion, that's just very inconvenient. Also, many studies Paul is referring to are animal studies with little to no randomized controlled trials on humans. Adding to that, most supporters of the animal-based or even carnivore diet were people with pre-existing health conditions, which then got resolved due to their new diet. This, of course, isn't the entire population, and most people can handle starchy carbohydrates as well as vegetables perfectly fine, me included. It's definitely a diet that can work for some individuals, but is definitely not a one-size-fits-all solution. He also puts too much of an emphasis on fully cutting out omega-6 linoleic acids, whilst omega-6s also play a vital role in the human body. So as long as you're getting your omega-6s through healthy sources like cold-pressed oils, nuts or unprocessed seeds, then you should rather aim to include healthy omega-3 choices like seafood products, walnuts or even olive oil. There's also this huge discussion about saturated fats, so the fats found in red meat, butter and other dairy products increasing LDL, so the bad cholesterol. Paul argues that high LDL doesn't increase your risk for cardiovascular disease and other diseases, but rather high LDL accompanying other risk factors like, for example, poor metabolic health. But I'm personally not going to take that risk until we have more data and clinically tested human control trials. Hey look, if there's one thing that you take away from this video, it's to really start paying attention to what you put in your body. There are so many people that just mindlessly consume food without even thinking how it affects their body, their energy levels or their mood, and then they wonder why they feel like crap all the time. Do your own research, experiment with different foods and read nutrition labels, and you'll be so surprised at how much better you'll feel in no time. If you've watched until now, then of course, thank you. And be sure to hit the like and subscribe button to see more of this kind of content. And then I'll say, until next time.